So, it's Black History Month, of course. And one of the things that I think that goes under the radar sometimes, and coming from a personal place, is that when we talk about violence and how violence affects communities, a lot of times when we hear, especially in the urban community, when you hear about violence, especially when it's gun violence, you hear about, either people dying or people who survive gun violence. But one of the population, one of the most under funded and resourced populations, even though it's a small population compared to like other populations within the United States, is the spinal cord injuries due to gun violence with African American men. I'm personally one of the part of that group, and what I want to touch on is that when you have someone who becomes a victim of gun violence and they end up having some kind of spinal cord injury and they lose, partial movement in their body and have paralysis in some parts of their body, and depending on like where the injury occurs is like how much mobility this person loses. And since I've been injured and I'm encountering other people who have had spinal cord injuries due to violence, and minority men, whether you're African American or Latino, one of the biggest issues is support. And when I say support, it's just support all the way around. Whether it comes from, health-wise, support from family and friends, support just from the community in general. Because what you have most times is when someone who has obtained a spinal cord injury due to violence, they become vulnerable because they're put in a situation where they're used to not being in, and then whoever they were before the incident, it's taken away from them. And a lot of times, in the African American community, we don't like to reach out and talk to people about our feelings or reach out and ask for help, which in retrospect can be a detriment to you moving forward. And I was at a support group one time at Freighter Hospital, and we were in the group, and it was a bunch of guys who had spinal cord injuries. Everybody in the group had some kind of spinal cord injury, so it was a mixture race-wise. It wasn't just African American men, it wasn't just gun violence. But anyways, we were talking, and the doc said something that was very profound that I never thought about myself. And we were talking, and he said to me, he was like, "Harvey, do you realize that you're privileged?" And when he said it, I didn't understand. Like, I said to my mind, like, what the fuck are you talking about? I'm privileged. I'm an African American man who has a spinal cord injury due to violence. And how am I privileged? And what he said to me made a bunch of sense. He said that you think that everybody who encounters an injury or have some kind of paralysis, has help and have support. And I thought about it, and I said, "You're right," because you would think and believe that if someone occurred a spinal cord injury or any kind of injury that causes them to lose mobility, but since we're talking African American men, just like African American man who experienced violence and got a spinal cord injury, you would think that their family and friends would stick around and help them out. Because that's what society, that's what your family is for. And did I lose a bunch of friends, quote unquote friends, after I got injured? Yeah, I did. But my core friends who really had my back, they stuck around. And I can honestly say that without my immediate family, they looked out for me, which gave me opportunities to be able to get out, meet new people, go to certain functions and stuff like that. And if I didn't have that support, I wouldn't have been able to do that. So with that support, it also gave me the ability to work on myself and do things that I can get to the point where I can be independent in my life, live alone and drive and work and all that other stuff. And I had to come to the realization, not everyone has that. And we can ask ourselves, why is that? But that comes with territory. Like, a lot, it depends on what kind of person you were, before your injury. You may have been an asshole. I was an asshole, but I wasn't an asshole to the point that I ever took advantage of anyone. I don't do that now. I was never, or at a point where I was bullying people. I mean, I'm funny, and I may be mean sometimes, but anything that I do and I say is coming from a genuine place. I'm not never trying to take advantage or run over people. So with my family being around and being able to help me get through the tough times, I was able to succeed, and I'm still able to succeed in life. And succeeding is really based around perspective and what a successful person is. And my goal when I got injured was to be able to do everything that a para was able to do, because I'm a quadriplegic, and because I have limitations in all four of my limbs. So I was able to do that, and once I accomplished that goal, I was fine. My goal was never ever to be able to walk again. I knew that was like out of my hands when I got injured, because at one point I couldn't move at all. But no, I met people, and I meet African American men. Some of the men that I have met throughout my travels have committed suicide because they're not able to deal with the situation. And either they over medicate themselves, or it's just too much, because then they say to themselves, I'm still not the person that I used to be. And what I try to tell people is that don't look so hard on what you used to do and what you used to be. Deal with what you have now and create a new you, or a new person. Not even a new person, because I'm still the same person that I am, but also realize that I have a lot of value to society and other people. I'm not able to I'm not up walking around with in the big scheme of things, what does that mean? Because I can't walk around with, but I do everything that most, if we want to just say men, I do everything that most men do, if not more, on a regular basis. Everything, from relationship wise to working to being active to being independent and doing what it is that I like to do. But that comes with support. But even when a person who doesn't have a spinal cord injury or don't have paralysis, no one does anything by themselves in this world or in this life at all. No one does. We all have some kind of support system. When you go to McDonald's or whatever, to fast food restaurants and eat, without those people there, who's there to serve you? You see what I'm saying? So in the big scheme of things, we all are supporting each other. And I just wanted to touch on the situation in the community of the minority community and people with spinal cord injuries and African Americans, that we have to find a way to handle our situations differently instead of just with violence. Because the violence doesn't solve anything, it only makes the situation worse. And at some point, the narrative has to change. And sad to say, and you can say what you want to say about this, the music is corrupting the shit out of our communities. Some of the shit that you see on TV, movies and sitcoms, not sitcoms, but TV shows, it keeps pushing the same narrative. And we have to change that, because there are people who are living in our communities who are literally dying inside because they don't know which way is up. They don't know what future can they have. The limitations are all around us, and we're afraid to reach out and ask for help, or can do this and do that, and we're so afraid to lead a lifestyle that we were living that got us in these situations, because this is all we know. But there's a bigger picture than that. So that's just something small I wanted to touch on. Since it's Black History Month, and I don't know, I guess enjoy your Black History Month, even though it's the shortest month of the year.